Hi, English teachers. Good afternoon to all the beautiful faces I see here in the Zoom platform. First things first, I would like to thank Elite for inviting me over, and of course, to the College of Education officials and to all our participants. As you notice, I use English teachers instead of simply English majors because first things first, again, you are in a College of Education and you are first an educator. And just to be specific, your major is English, right? So again, thank you for this opportunity. I believe this is just one of the many invitations that Elite uh, has sent me for the past years and the past months. But then it's also just one of those invitations where I said yes, I think. So let's start first with our system check. If you're my student, you know that we always do system check, human check, and all these preliminary activities or tasks. So may I ask for a thumbs up if you can hear me clearly. I hope my audio is very clear and free of any background noises. Okay, how about a heart react if you can see my my screen if I'm sharing the right screen. Okay, great. Thank you so much. And of course, you notice that there's an element or graphic there about, yes, human check. So can you type in the Zoom chat, what are you feeling at this very moment? Yeah, again, if you're one of my students, they know that we always do human check before starting a new discussion or recall or any activity that is pending. So we do this. Yeah, please type even if I will not be able to receive your responses live or in real time because it's recorded. But then, yeah, please type them there. You can also use emoji of how are you feeling this afternoon. Yeah. Okay, thank you so much for the responses. Okay, let's continue. Allow me to start with this question. Why should you choose co-ed? Later on, you'll know the reason or the story behind this picture. It's not because there is no choice. You always have, but it's not simply about your choice at the moment. It is his choice for you as a product of the pioneer class of co-ed and the very first co-ed graduate to serve the university as a faculty member. My infinite and unchanging gratitude goes to Mamteen. I was one of those freshmen who cried in front of the registrar's office while staring at the remaining academic programs that were not in my top three alternatives. And without, a tangible plan, I entered ICTO for the interview. And at that time, I was thinking of taking BEd, assuming that it's an easy program because of the age group of my future learners, without realizing that teaching the subject, the subject matter in elementary level is far beyond teaching or handling the kids. So I salute our basic education teachers. So I held on to BEd program. However, I met this fellow in Growley who initially planned to take BSED or Bachelor of Secondary Education. Then he asked me to choose BSED with him through a toss coin. That's a story, through a toss coin game. And he told me that if I win, I can proceed to be at interview. But if I lose, I'll join him in secondary. Guess who won? During our first year in the College of Education, we did not have yet specializations to choose from. The generation now is so blessed to have all the available major programs to target. We were merged with another class when we are promoted second year. That's the time when we can choose our prospect major. The options were only two: mathematics and English. Since the last school year allowed math was in fourth grade, I chose English. Junior came, we started with our in campus practice teaching, followed by an off campus that I consider the real world of this praxis. This was the year I began to realize that teaching is my calling and mission. The classroom of your students is a mission field. Your actual students are the pivotal drive for you to continue this priceless and noble journey. You realize that they are your expected return on investment or ROI. The purpose of helping the students discover the truth with your help becomes your daily goal to continue learning with love and passion. I've learned that teaching is 30% knowledge and 70% performance. You start to feel fueled with enthusiasm and empathy because you want them to aim and soar high. Every semester, I receive the questions, Ma'am, early, do you speak that way ever since? Ma'am, how to speak like you do? And ma'am, do you speak English at home? Every skill requires practice. And it's actually no. It's a no answer to the last question. Every day I learn something new and I'm delighted to share it with my students immediately. I am not perfect. I still commit lapses or maybe should just say errors. There's no profession where one starts as an expert or a pro, maybe unless he's a genius. We all start from the meat and potatoes. The most important to ask oneself is if this is his calling. Otherwise, I'll always get weary and drained in pursuing something he's not called to do. I prayed about it. You should too. So again, if that story sounds familiar to you, well, that means you read it online in June 2020. The question, why should you choose co-ed, given to me by yeah, Elite, also the same organization. And they asked their or all English faculty members in the College of Education to answer that question, why choose English, why choose co-ed. And I shared my story there. Minority or majority of you are my students here. So you already know the backstory of why I'm here teaching, right? Why I consider teaching as my calling more than my choice. So yeah, we can actually finish that story, but I have more in store for you. Yeah, that's the highlight today. But before that, allow me to share what happened week before last, I believe, during the same class I had with my English majors. I will not specify the year level, but if you're my student, say hi or give me a haha react and yeah, permission to use some of the responses or reactions you gave regarding our sit work. It's just a sit work. It's about who versus whom. They realize that, many people, or specifically English majors, aren't still familiar to how, right, how to use the who versus whom correctly, right? But just, because it sounds right, it's correct. Well, that's not the case here. So we had that's it work, who versus whom. I gave my students like 10 items or 10 sentences or interrogative statements with where they need to answer if it's a who or whom that is missing. And after that, still many got, not many, sorry, very few got perfect scores. And these are the realizations of those who did not get perfect score. Like, ma'am, lipat na ako program. Or don't be afraid to shift. By the way, this is verbatim. Like I just got their responses from the Zoom chat. Ma'am, overthink po ako malala. Hehe. Ma'am, nag-doubt ako sa sarili ko nung una. Haha. And thanks to sign, ma'am. And I believe you know what they're talking about here regarding design. And yes, it's about here shifting to other course or major program. One even said, ma'am, B said FL po yata pala ako. Okay. Another response was this: grades are just numerical representation of my performance. Character is more important. I couldn't agree more. Yes, in most cases. But recently, I also came across this article online. But of course, this statement generally applies here in the Philippines, especially uh, if you're applying for a job, or if you already got the job. Normally, if you got that character, and we're talking about positive, good character, nurturing one, well, that is your edge more than the grades. But this article that I've read recently, he's actually clamoring about the grades that he received during high school and how it's a factor, how it matters still in terms of pursuing a college degree or a college program, and then, furthering his studies. So, yes, in most cases, this is true, but it's it shouldn't be an excuse for you to settle for less or to, just be satisfied with a mediocre work or an average grade. You can do better than that, right? And this is, I think, one of my favorites. I think, yeah, mahal naman po ako ni mama. Give yourself heart react. Yes, I believe mahal po tayo ng ating mothers. We're all loved by our moms, and this is indubitably true, right? But you know what? More than your mom's love, the truth is the one who called you in this profession loves you more than you can fathom. And that assures that he has a future for you. And maybe the reason for these statements, or maybe you're still undecided about pursuing your program now, can you give me a raise of hand if you're still undecided? Okay. Or you are having those thoughts earlier from those bubbles. If you are still undecided about pursuing your program now, maybe that's because you don't know at least the facade of what's in store for, at least the facade, right, of what's in store for you. And that leads us to asking ourselves, what's in store for me? I actually titled this entire presentation, What's in Store for Me. Can you type that question? Of course you can. Please type the question in the Zoom chat. What's in store for me now? What's in store for me? Okay. Initially, I was thinking of using English as my mnemonic device. However, I think it needs more than an hour for us to finish. So I just use my initials, EAG, Elena Igalano, for our outline this afternoon. So E for experiences, A for advantages, and goals. Yeah, for experiences, I already added there challenges. So experiences and challenges that I had, maybe I'm still having as an English teacher, an English major. Right? Just like what the meme says, who says teaching is stressful? I'm 39 and I feel great. I hope this is, or I hope this is not the common scenario of many students or English practice teachers now. I hope not. But just in case, it only informs us that yes, we will encounter, and that's for sure. Not you might, but you will encounter these challenges. Okay. First things first, it will not be easy. It will not be easy at first. Way back practice teaching year 2014, I handled, it was at Mayamot National High School in Antipolo City near our home here. I handled 7 sections of grade 7. I think by design or by policy, you only have, or you will only handle 5 sections at most, I think. But during that time, I handled 7 sections of grade 7, handled by my cooperating teacher, or critic teacher, as you call him, her. And to tell you, students were not interested at all. They were not interested in learning the language. Definitely, it's, because it's a transition from grade 6, elementary to high school. And during that time, we didn't have yet K to 12. They were even called baby dinosaurs because they're literally wild in the room, where doors are not wooden, rather made of steel with chain as lock. If only you can imagine that. You will also find students running around, doodling, writing, and doing other things. You might think you already know what's right, also, only to learn later on that what has been imprinted to your mind must be validated by evidence, not only a hearsay. And as you continue pursuing the program, even when you started going out to the teaching field, you will know a lot of new things. You will discover a lot of new things that, oh, I've been practicing to say this. I've been consumed by this information that this is the right thing or the right word to say. And you realize it's not. Another thing, it will not be easy. For instance, as you start your first day of class, as an employee teacher, you might start shaking or feeling so conscious and cautious at the same time of your speech, or if you're saying the right things, and if you're delivering them grammatically correct. You might even speak very slow because you want them to catch on everything you utter which to some supervisors or observers, that's not sounding smart. Yeah, again literally received that comment on my first day of teaching. And I realized, oh, I shouldn't be so cautious or conscious about my speech because I can just, I can just speak continuously and I can share the things I would like to share to my students continuously. Maybe because my fear back then was they will not be able to catch up on things because of the speed of my speech. So I try to somehow have the slow pace, but it's like what I said to some supervisors, uh, you don't sound smart when you do that. And it's not an easy peasy thing because we had a hard time or maybe just a challenging time before in crafting our DLP or semi DLP or actually DLL. Okay, it's not a thing in the past. We have to think of the right verbs to use in our SMART objectives and SMART, right? Specific, measurable, attainable results, oriented, and time bound principles of objectives by Benjamin Bloom and Lauren Anderson, a student. We also need to ponder on the best or at least an interesting and really an energizing activity that must be connected to our subject matter back then. We also needed to write our LP instead of simply typing our LP. Now you are so blessed. Can you give me heart react? You are so blessed to have your DepEd CG. I hope you are seeing the bright side and really the light that is being shed on you by the K to 12 system. Maybe now you still don't like it, but later on you realize it is feasible. It is feasible in our education system. Maybe I sound idealistic here, but at least based on my experience, you are products of K to 12, right? And I can see not really a big gap, but at least really a surprising difference between products of two different education systems. Okay, so first, yeah, it is not easy peasy. Second, you have to widen your perspective. You shouldn't limit your sources. An experience would be, it may not be just my experience, but yours as well. When you're given a topic to present or a subject matter to conduct a demo teaching on, sometimes you are stuck to, or maybe you chose to be focused on one resource, or I don't want to say it, but to one book that your teacher provided for you or prescribed to be used in the class. That's why even during the class orientation, you will ask your teacher, ma'am, do we have a specific book to use in this course? Mhm. But I realized when I started teaching also, I can't recall vividly if I've done this as a student, but I realized that we have to present everything. We have to present all resources possible to our students or to your classmates as a presenter in class and let them exercise their critical thinking skills. Which source has a better content, and which one can just be considered as a secondary source, right? Instead of simply, for instance, you're assigned to discuss elements, right, of an LP, for example, or parts of a lesson plan, and then you present the five basic parts. But in each school, they use different parts, right? Or yeah, different elements in an LP. Why not present all, right? And give your students the chance to choose which will best fit their subject matter or the target language or area that they would like to teach. Right? But of course, if you're under DepEd, you have to use the prescribed template, and you're also blessed because you already have the template. Okay, so please present all resources possible. You will also encounter, again, not might, but you will encounter students that will give you this face. Yeah, scratching their head, and another face, the nganga face. I believe this was on trend before. Nganga. I don't know if you still use this. Now it's hahak dog, I think. So you will encounter students that will give you these two faces. That means never assume that they know. Give me a haha react if you're guilty of using the expression or the introductory phrase or statement saying, we all know that. Or as you know, maybe I've committed that, but I try to avoid saying the former. We all know that because you expect, right, that you present something new, you present something fresh to your students. So don't assume unless stated, or else they will give these faces. Well, what are you talking about? Right, ma'am, we don't know. Why are you saying we know? Or when your teacher started talking, this is me. I started talking and discussing, and then I mentioned a lot of maybe jargons or theories or theorists. And then I will ask if you're my student, you know this. I will ask first, did you learn this? Or have you learned this before? Because this will be helpful at present. Uh, it is not to blame. Again, we shouldn't do that. It is not to blame your former teachers. It is for me to know I'm just conducting survey if I needed to reintroduce the topic, because that can be a springboard, right? Or really a basis for you to understand the present topic or scenario. Again, never assume that your students know. Another thing, our use of language as English majors. Again, bear with me if I've already shared this to my students now or former students. I've had this class with first year IT major. They're not English majors, but IT majors. I taught the course before we still had the course writing the discipline. So mostly about also research in their field. And I started discussing about research and the parts and theories and maybe the methodologies as well. Then I noticed this, the picture on the right. I noticed that, yeah, slowly everyone, was giving me that nganga face. I didn't get anything or and so on. So I need to do something, right? I need to make sure that we are on the same page. They understand what I'm saying. They understand at least my delivery. And I asked them, do you want me to speak in Filipino? Because I think that's needed. At least somehow, I think that's a solution. And then everybody, everybody said, yes, ma'am. And if I were to speak in Filipino, I needed to, you know, speak in straight Filipino, like continuous Filipino. And oh, sorry, I will not use but to tell you, right? So we are majority of the Filipinos are bilingual because we have two official languages in the country, in our nation, English and Filipino. So I started speaking in Filipino. And for them, I sounded what? Too formal, makata, however you want to call it. But for them, it is harder. It is more difficult for them to understand what I'm saying because I am speaking in straight Filipino. Talking about research, take note. Unless it is really in a Filipino context of source, which is pananaliksik. But no. So they told me, or maybe one just told me, ma'am, English na lang po. So I continued. And yeah, with that, I think we're able to meet halfway. I asked them to ask me if they need more examples. So I gave them another experience or challenge that you might encounter. You might want to do all things at once, right? This meme says, students, say if you ever want to know what a teacher's mind feels like, imagine a web browser with 2,879 tabs open all the time. All the time. Because again, going back to my other challenge for you is that you provide at least majority of the reliable sources or resources that you found. That's why you have these 1,000 tabs. Wait, well, that's an exaggeration, but that's possible, right? That you only see the X mark of the tab instead of at least the logo of the website, not anymore the title of the site or the content of that particular web page, because you are a multitasker. Right? So you might want to do all things at once, but you should take things one at a time in order to produce desirable output. You might want to start with your motivation or motivational activity, but I suggest that you do it afterward, after you finish your entire LP. In that way, that's a very good technique. Okay. If an energizer or motivational activity is not provided for you by the school and it needs your or demands your creativity to produce one, I suggest you think about it after you finish all the basic parts of your LP. Because with that, you can easily attack all your objectives using that. But if you were to use that, or yeah, to do that, to use that technique, you can also use your motivational activity as your springboard. So it will not be wasted. So my internet connection is fluctuating. Another thing, yeah, like this, relevant to the previous challenge. Yeah, how I think I look teaching online, how I really look. I think I mentioned this to my students once. If only you can see my setup. I have two monitors here. Even now, I have two monitors set up. I always have my second monitor. So my presentation, that's why I'm looking to that side, because that's where my presentation is, and everything here. I see the Zoom and the navigation and the other software applications I need. Especially now, attendance is required. So my students know that it's like I am a live streamer because I also live stream our classes through my YouTube account. So I need to multitask by reading the Zoom chat and reading the comments from the YouTube live, even though YouTube live streaming has a 20-second delay. So that's only the setback of doing that. You will also encounter students. This is true. This is a challenge and an experience who don't or will not agree with you. And you have to be prepared for that. One scenario in my class, it was with senior high school at PUP, of course. I believe STEM students or ABM. During that time, I had this what they call, or what one student of mine called as, or termed my house rules as the Philippine Constitution. Ma'am, you're, I received that comment in the student evaluation years ago, pre-pandemic, because I think I had 30 plus house rules, and now I limited them to less than 20 still, or maybe less than 10. You can remind me in the Zoom chat if you know. And then the original, one original house rule I had there was yawning is not allowed. Maybe that was still part of my Miss Minchin phase of teaching, I think. Even though I know, of course, I know the fact that when a person yawns, it means that it doesn't mean really that you're sleepy. It's actually an action for you to be awake, right? That is scientifically proven. So with this STEM students, their final requirement was position speech and position paper. And yeah, I think it was the course title English for Academic and Professional Purposes, or EAPP. And one of my students chose this to fight for. The yawning should be allowed in class. And then afterward, I realized, yeah, again, just like what I told you, I know based on research studies, it is also proven to help you fight being sleepy, or to fight your sleepy head. And after that, I removed that. I remove that from my house rules. So that's how impactful, right, your student opinion should also play in your not only house rules, but even in your teaching styles or approaches. Another thing for with senior high school students, mm, with GAS, General Academic Strand, it's a homeroom class. Yeah, it's a homeroom class, and we are talking about, how we deliver our speech to people and how to avoid letting them feel offended and how to be respectful to others. And a certain group of students in the class, they were friends, their circle of friends, and one stood to his feet and explained about cursing and swearing, that it is his expression. And since it's an expression for him, it shouldn't offend people. But he even opposed how the elders view cursing. For him, it's so traditional, right? So, as an English teacher, that's where we can enter. How will you, right? How will you explain this to them without them letting feel bad about their expression? And then we discuss communication, right? We discuss about communication, especially considering or putting yourself in the shoes of your recipient, recipient of your message. If you and your friends use swearing and cursing expression and you don't feel offended, but you have to make sure they're not offended. You have to make sure they're not just afraid of you. That's why they don't make it a big deal. But what if, right? Inside your friend's heart, uh, because it's not also his or her expression, right? For your friend, it is offensive. So you have to make sure, right, that when you use that, your intention is not really to swear the person or to curse the person. And still, to many elders, that connotes a negative message. So you have to be very careful. You need to also prepare, right, your reasonable scenarios and explanations to your students. And yeah, you can even introduce a new topic for that. Another meme here: when you look up from your exam paper and make eye contact with your teacher. And this can also happen. Some students will not simply accept their scores. I think in most fields, there will always be exemptions to the rules, not only applicable to math, but even English at some point. One linguist told us as his students in a linguistics lecture class, that prepositions are devil. He used that statement to describe prepositions. And we're not talking about simply basic prepositions here, but prepositions used as idiomatic expressions or as idioms. Okay. Another, there will always be students who will not participate, who will not look interested. And you have to include all and make sure to give everyone a chance to speak or voice out their opinions. During face-to-face class, I used to get the attention of my students, especially two students chatting. And I will really ask the topic they're talking about. What are you talking about? You have to tell me, because initial response would be, "Ma'am, wala po." Right? And then they will return to listening to you. But in my case, I will force them to tell me. And what I will do is for them not to feel embarrassed, right? That I caught their attention and that I caught them chatting. No matter how you think, how seemingly you think what you're talking about is irrelevant, because it's also in the house rules that you only can talk to your shipmate if you're talking about things relevant to the discussion. But if you think that what you're about to confess to your teacher is not relevant, I can make it relevant for you not to feel embarrassed. And my students will be surprised. Really, ma'am, you even connected playing ML or thinking about what food I would love to eat during break time to our discussion. How do you do that? It's not me. Every time I will challenge myself and I will wait for your response about what you're talking about. I am praying. I am praying. Lord, give me the right answer. Help me connect this to our discussion. No matter how seemingly uh, impossible it will look. So I will pray. Even during the times that I will ask my students to ask me questions. Again, we're not perfect. And I myself, I'm not an all knowing person. So I will pray. That's my secret. And now it's not a secret. Because you might ask me, ma'am, what if I really don't know the answer to that? Also, I can also tell you, but proven and tested, I pray. Right? I pray. I will start praying while they are thinking of their questions. I will start praying, Lord, please give me the maybe uh not the most appropriate answer to this, but an acceptable answer to their question. At least to that extent, but God will always provide me answer to that question. Mostly in the form of example, practical situation. So understanding is there. During online class, as much as possible, I call those students who haven't recited yet because we have recitation sticks as reward for that. Because it's easy to unmute or ask someone to unmute here in Zoom. So I will try my best to accommodate all answers because I once told my students, I don't want to deprive you like I was deprived before to share my opinions. Or maybe you are the ones depriving yourselves because you're shy or you're afraid that it's wrong. Again, there are no wrong answers, only most appropriate ones. At least that's a principle I impose or implement in the class. Right? Maybe you're afraid, and then after the share it time of your teacher, you will give your seatmate a pat on the back. Hey, that was what I am thinking. And mom already gave the answer. I should have raised my hand. So to avoid that as much as possible, again, as much as possible. So forgive me for the times that I think I left somehow 3 to 4 students because we also need to look at the time constraint. Okay, next. Have you experienced this? Maybe as a student, mistakenly calling someone based on gender preference. Because in my experience, at least as a person or as a student, not just as a teacher, way back fourth year, third year, fourth year high school, my name was called. If you will notice my name, it's Erdinel Galano, and it's not automatic that you realize I'm a woman, right? Without mentioning that my voice can also add to that to that impression that I'm really not a woman. I personally don't like my voice. I don't like hearing my voice. I don't like listening to my recordings. But that time, my name was called along with the boys in high school. If I'm not mistaken, that was a math teacher, and I cried. I believe that was the first time, and I cried. I cried, and I was seated next to a guy classmate. And I cried to him. Bakit pa tinawag niyo, sir? Kasama niya. Maybe because it's because of my name. And when I started teaching, pre-pandemic, it was very recent. I think this batch of students just graduated last last November 12th. Okay. And in their class, there was this student. At least for me, I it's hard for me to identify or recognize one regarding his or her gender preference. So, and I called her because I called pre-pandemic. I used to call my students ma'am. So it's somehow a sexist term because ma'am for women, right? And then sir for men. And that time I called her ma'am. And also because the name of that person right? It's like a name of a woman. So I called ma'am, and then only to find out, and that person looks so fresh and glowy and, really amazing. And so I called her. I can't recall if her classmates gave me a look or a stare because I didn't know. I didn't know. She's so petite. So I realized I shouldn't use ma'am, sir. Right? Again, if you're my student, you'll know that I call my students not anak. At least I have Beba syndrome in terms of personal messages or through our GC. But if it's during our same classes, excuse me, I use teacher and then your first name. Right? I call my edX students teacher plus first name. I'm also not comfortable with calling my students by their surname, but they have their choice. I gave my students a choice to use open and close parentheses with the name or with their nickname. So I can call them depending on how they want to be called. I will call you teacher Joy, teacher B-boy, teacher so on and so forth. Another thing, uh, a challenge and an experience as well, right? Correcting your students' use of English as a form of feedback. And if it's the subject matter, you may do three things. You may reiterate their sentence or speech and correcting it at the same time. So they will notice. Second, ask them if they think what they said or gave as a response was correct and let them analyze and figure it out by themselves. Another thing, you can correct them nicely. If it's not the subject matter, but you just want to help your students because you care for them as their English teacher, you can do reiteration with correction and or direct correction or feedback. But ma'am, what if they will not notice if I'm correcting them? That's why I said you can also correct them directly in a nice manner. You can even give disclaimer if you think that your delivery is not done in a nice manner. You can say, I'm doing this for you because I care for you. And I would love you to learn to say it again, right, in a manner where I've given you corrections or feedback. It's possible. It's possible to give direct or even a post feedback, right, for your students' use of English language. Another thing, from this meme of Mike Wazowski, no one, and me staring at my student who speaks in English more fluently than I do. This is a challenge as well. Yes, you might consider yourself a confident person now or a confident English teacher to be, but still, you will have this moment in your teaching experience that you will feel intimidated by your students' English ability, to be specific, by your students' English fluency. And I gave you a clue there, fluency. Still, you are an English teacher. You are the English teacher there. And that means you are the accurate one. Hopefully, of course, we are the accurate ones. Or at least we can do lapses, we can correct ourselves. So what you will do, you listen attentively, appreciate, of course, that's a good thing. But always remind yourself, I am the English teacher here. I studied, right, or I finished a degree for this. To feel inferior, right, in front of my student. I believe in you. That spirit of being an English major will naturally enter your realm, your spirit. And last, this one, your mere presence sets and impacts the mood or atmosphere of your learning environment. With English majors, I had this class. They were, I believe, first year, second year English majors, also, edX students. And we had this incident where it was a time that my student was presenting in front, or she hasn't, she hasn't started presenting. And I was there. I entered the room. Before that, I entered the room with poker face because this class was used to seeing me laughing, or we always laugh inside that room. It's like, it's just a very light spirit. But there was this thing. I didn't know what happened to me. I didn't know what entered my balloon. But I was not in the mood to smile, even to smile. But I greeted them, very formal, with poker face. Take note, I wasn't even shouting at them. I was not mad at anyone. So I gave them that poker face. And then I sat at the back. This student who's about to present in front started shaking, shivering, to the point that I needed to call someone, her classmate, to accompany her to the clinic. It was just, I believe, few steps from our classroom. After that, of course, she was still in the clinic, and then after that, I asked the class, still with that mood, with that poker face. I asked the class, "Are you all nervous?" But during that time, still many were reciting, many were still active. But I already felt the tension during that time. So I asked them, "Are you nervous?" And then everybody said, "Yes, ma'am." And then I asked, "Why?" And they said, again, I quote, "Ma'am, beast mode ka po." I said, "What?" During that time, it was a term that we use, beast mode, right? If you were somehow angry or not in the mood. What? I didn't even realize I was, in my beast mode. It was something that I will carry with me until I die, I think, because it's not a one incident. It's not just one incident that one incident that my student, that student, specific student, did that in class. Not in my class anymore, but in other classes. And then I asked the other classmates, is she still like that? She's still doing that? Yes, ma'am. Every time that she has something to report or present in front, she will do that. And to some, of course, we can't jump into conclusion. I can't judge her as well. It can be true, or it could be true with what happened in our class with her. But for her classmates, it was already her maybe escape technique. At least for her classmates, it's her escape technique, not to present. I don't want to think that way because it's there are still many factors, internal and external factors, that will affect, and that might affect a presenter in front to to start shaking, right? So, but I believe graduating year of that class, I asked them again if she's still like that, and good news, I thank God, she wasn't anymore like that, because she can't be like that, right, when she goes out to the field, to the teaching field. So these are the experiences. I have a lot, but we have very limited time. Okay. Next, advantages. Advantages. Of course, we will not talk about how many tangible gifts and surprises you might receive or you will receive in the future and experience every Teacher's Day. These advantages are mere, I mean, yeah, those gifts, tangible gifts, non-tangible gifts, surprises, those are mere bonuses. Have you made an impact to your students' lives? But here, we'll talk more about, at least really, that after you graduate, these are the advantages that await you. Okay. I have this cartoon here, comic, Perks of Being an English Major. Jacob, read us a book. Analyze this poem for me, baby. And then Jacob, or the English major, will say, ladies, please, I'm a busy man. Or here, as a result of your exceptional prowess in English, we would like to offer you all the jobs. You love that? But maybe yes, if you will be well compensated. Another, Jacob, this is the president. I need you at the White House to analyze this Shakespeare play. I'll be right there, Pres. And then woohoo, right? You're rejoicing with the fruit of your labor, with specific money, right? Or salary. Okay. As an English major, you can do side hustle. Yes, you First things first, you will serve your students. If this is your calling, right? If this is your calling, you will be a teacher first, an English teacher first. But also at the same time, if you like to add value to your skill, to your talent, to your gift, you can do side hustle. And of course, one thing that is eternal, you can help more people or clients or students, even without expecting anything in return. During our freshman year, oh yeah, freshman orientation, or maybe that's a general assembly for all English majors during sophomore in college. I can't vividly recall the time, but we represented an A to Z, take note, A to Z list of all job opportunities for English majors. Okay, that means just in case there will be a next calling for you and you are ready to accept or receive the call, you can take that literally and connotatively. But yes, it's just up to you. It's just up to your preference if you will accept it or not, but you will always have a job to land on. It can be a part time, full time, temporary job, again, side hustle. Because the major strength of all English graduates is our ability to communicate effectively, both orally and in writing. And studying an English degree also develops our skills in independent working, time management, and organization, our planning skills and researching written work skills, our manner of articulating knowledge and understanding of text, concepts, and theories, and even our skills in leading and participating in discussions, also negotiation and team working to present ideas and information effectively, conveying arguments. If you were a debater before, you can be a coach there. You can also mentor someone, right? Here in the Philippines or in other country, right? And even other opinions, and as well as thinking creatively, using your judgment to weigh up alternative perspectives, critical reasoning and analysis, and of course, using IT. Maybe not the entirety of that field, but at least we know because of this shift from face to face to online setup. And we English majors learn specialized and in demand skills. In demand skills. Education is what you make of it. And most English majors don't become teachers. Nearly every modern company needs writers. I hope you will serve first your nation, our students here, and you can do side hustle of offering your services, your skills and gifts and talents to these clients here also and abroad. I search for at least best jobs for English majors in 2022, and you yourself, you can have your A to Z list, your own A to Z list, personalized A to Z list of jobs or your prospect jobs in the future. Some jobs presented in this site are jobs directly related to your degree, jobs where your degree would be useful from, at least from this side. Yeah, the highest paying job is being a technical writer. Starting salary $48,000. Look at that. And look at the job opening, 75,000. At least this one is in the first world country, but still you can try. And I believe also the trend now is being a freelancer. Right? If you're familiar with the Upwork, the Upwork website, you can be a freelance there. You can send your proposals to prospect clients who would like to avail themselves of your services or skills. Right? From technical writer to editor, communication specialist, writer and editor, marketing coordinator, writer, content writer, copywriter, also a high paying job, marketing internship, editorial assistant, office assistant, other jobs just related, somehow related to your degree is being an academic librarian, advertising, copywriter, archivist, arts administrator. In Upwork, I think they were also looking for a biography writer, a creative writer, coach, or tutor, communication specialist, content writer. I already said that. Digital, what else? Digital copywriter. Of course, as a teacher, English as a foreign language teacher, or English as a second language teacher, or English instructor, academic instructor, education consultant, editor, information officer, learning mentor, lexicographer, magazine journalist, newspaper journalist, private tutor. I believe many of you now, right, are offering your service as a private tutor. That's a good training ground. So I salute you for doing that. Publishing copy editor proofreader. There's one E there. Secondary school teacher, of course, as a graduate from this college. Web content manager, writer, technical writer. I already said that. What else? Primary school teacher. Well, that's a thing. If you, well, I learned this from my former professor in the undergrad that if you are a graduate of at least a higher level, and I realize it's true, if you will look at some job openings, most of the time, yeah, they will look for even your clients or not clients, even your target students would be on on a lower level, for instance. Still, uh, one of the minimum qualifications would be having an experience teaching adults. That's true. So my former professor told us that if you're a graduate of a higher level, you can teach the lower level. And yeah, that's true. What else? Records manager, social media manager. But for some fields, a certification or advanced degree is necessary. That's why you can pursue further education or further study. Some English graduates choose to continue their academic studies by doing an MA or a PhD in areas such as English language and literary studies, creative writing, Victorian, fantasy, or medieval literature, or linguistics. And others choose to study more vocational postgraduate courses in areas such as teaching, journalism, librarianship, or law. That's also a possible career path for an English major. Such courses allow you to study in an area you wish to enter as a career. If you've heard also of teaching certifications like TOEFL, TESOL, CELTA, right? You might want to take these certifications after you graduate because to some, for instance, other to some certifications that I've mentioned, you need to have at least a bachelor's degree before you can take a specific teaching certification. Some are paid certifications, some can be accessed freely. However, please have your integrity not to cheat because there are many teachers, specifically Filipino English teachers, would try to access this free TOEFL certification test that has answer key online. And even if they do have, and even that's acceptable, getting a certification from that site is acceptable in other companies or schools, please still have your integrity not to cheat. It's better that you study the entire context because they will teach you approaches and even samples of English conversations, English problems that you will use certainly when you teach English as a foreign language, at least for TEFL, right, in other countries. And teaching or TESL is teaching English as a second language. And generally in the Philippines, we're doing that. But there is also a teaching certification for that. TESOL also teaching English to speakers of other languages. It is for anyone looking to teach in both non-native and English-speaking countries. And very famous, I think, is CELTA. It is a certificate in English language teaching to adults and specifically affiliated with Cambridge University. And if you're looking for an advanced degree that gives you the option to teach English both at home and abroad, then a TESOL or CELTA course could be your best bet. Well, above all these certifications, TEFL or teaching English as a foreign language certification is the globally accepted qualification to teach English abroad to students, both children and adults, whose first language is not English. And it is what most hiring schools are looking for on a teach abroad application. Yeah, let's now go to goals for the G. Goals. Can you give me a thumbs up if this is one of your goals, or maybe your first goal after graduation, or maybe not after graduation because you like to rest and enroll in a review center to top the list? Yeah, that's one approach that you will have, or one attitude. This is also an advice from my former professor in the university when I was still, a student. Your mindset should be to top the left. That will be your goal. That should be your heart's desire, to top the left. Because if you aim to pass the left, the only way down there is to fail. But if you, of course, you need to take it by heart. You need to be sincere about, yes, Lord, I want to top the left. So the only way down is to pass. So maybe this is one, but I will give you other things. Okay. That should be your goal as English teacher, English major, college student. Okay. Take your time. Yeah. First goal is to take your time, especially now. We are so vulnerable, right? To different emotions and feelings around us. One major factor is pandemic, but more than that, generation changes from time to time. Demands, expectations change. I hope that one of these goals will not be to please someone or something. That's why you're trying your best or striving, right, to achieve their or to meet their expectations, because we can never please a person. We can never please people, right? And if you would tell me, ma'am, it's possible, that's not possible, because once you met their expectation, there will always be another expectation. And I hope that you will not get burnout because you did not take your time. Take your time. Breathe in, breathe out. Take your time also to build your character. This is the next goal. You need to build your character. Earlier, I already mentioned integrity. Doing the right thing even if no one is watching. God knows what's in your heart, your intention. If your intentions are good and pure, God knows about it. And I hope that we will look from that lens of God and how He sees us. And also humility. You have to build your humility. Of course, no one will say, I am humble. Because by mere saying that, that means they're not humble. But these two, integrity and humility. And it will bring you to places that you can't fathom. In terms of being humble, always have a second eye or ask someone for their second opinion, right? Ask for second opinion of your MKO or more knowledgeable other, your mentors in the field. I still appreciate my former students who are now teachers sending me PM, ma'am, what's the difference between, even though I know that they can simply search for that, but they will still ask for my help. And I appreciate that. Ma'am, can you give me an energizer for these and that? I appreciate that. Ma'am, I applied this activity in my class that we did in our class. Thank you. I appreciate that. These things are your return on investment. More than money, which is a temporary thing in life. It is, the eternal thing, right? Eternal impact that you can leave to your students. So always be humble. Don't assume that in one typing, in one sitting, your work is perfect. No. Even your second eye, for example, you can still find mistakes, errors, and formatting mistakes. But don't stop learning to satisfy your curiosity. Be open to learn from your students too. There is something to be learned from everyone. This is true. I appreciate every class I had with my students because I am always learning something new from them that I can bring, I can carry, I can use as examples. And these are good examples because these are real examples. These are not alienated ones. These are not just made out of my imagination. These are real things that are happening. Another goal: share immediately with others what you've learned or gained. Immediately. Again, life is short. We don't know the time that you will forget. Forget. No, something you've learned from someone, but because you forgot to share with others immediately, what happened? Right, sharing stops there. Sharing stops with you. So I've learned this as well. At least the concrete application of this goal was uh, realized by me during my advanced study, yeah, in my MAALT program. And that Saturday, so I had class Monday after that. And immediately I will share the things I learned from graduate school to my undergrad students, specifically English majors. Next, go. Bear excellence in. Look at the elements I used there. I did my best. I hope that in every task you'll do, you can tell yourself, Lord, we did our best. I did my best for your glory. Never settle to give less than you can give. You know you can give more. Why not give more? Right? Going back to mm, the story I shared at the very beginning, teaching is 30% knowledge, 70% performance. Give your best performance to your students. Right? Because you might start sharing something in one class with the same course with other class, but you forgot to share. Right? That's something to the other class. So just give your best performance. Aim to always be the better version of yourselves. Never stop learning. Next, go. By the way, this is not in chronological order. Right? I just place them accordingly. Appreciate constructive criticisms. Can you give me thumbs up if you are not comfortable with constructive criticisms or you have a weak heart? I myself, I have a weak heart in terms of that, but I look at the brighter side. I filter those that are not beneficial. I only selected and apply those that are beneficial, but filter those that are destructive. So know and recognize your real mentors in life, especially in your career as English majors, and be grateful to them. Listen attentively to the truth. And again, the truth in teaching is that teaching is a process of helping the learners discover the truth. That synthesized definition of teaching was made in our MAAL class with one of our professors. Because we can give a lot. Teaching is sharing knowledge, teaching is imparting this and that. But what really is teaching in a general sense? It is the process of helping your learners discover the truth, because whatever you tell them, it should be the truth. Even when you give them verbal feedback, positive verbal feedback, written feedback, you need to be sincere. One philosophy I've been applying since I've listened to Miss Sabrina Kiko when I watched her return on investment TED Talk years and years ago. I believe I was still a student, and one of my former teachers here in the college made us watch the TED Talk. It is to believe is to see. To believe is to see. It's not the other way around for teachers. We have to believe that our students can, so we see that they can. And that's true, proven and tested. Next, go. Never settle for temporary things that you know are not healthy for your mental and emotional health. Never compromise your peace for something temporal. Remember that everything is permissible, but not everything is beneficial in life. So invest on eternal things. Especially us, educators, we always have a legacy. It's up to you to choose to make the decision to choose that the legacy you will leave is a positive legacy and a helpful one, right? You are an educator first. Your heart must always be about helping the learners discover the truth and allowing them to discover and receive their own calling, even if it means sacrificing things for them. And if God asks you to be generous to your students, give your student this and that. She doesn't have that. Answer that call. Be generous. Next goal, have a purpose. Technically, it can be pursuing language over literature or the other way around. But this purpose goes beyond choosing a specific career path. Right? You may ask yourself, is your heart telling you to serve or help others or impress them? I hope it's the former. Teachers do not seek a monetary return on our investment like business leaders do. We seek greater student learning and even use our scarce resource on what works best for our students. That's why sacrificial love is there. Yeah, I think it's innate to all teachers who are called for this mission. Now let's go back. E, experiences challenges, right? A, advantages and your goals. So what's in store for me? Let's click that enter button there. Let's go back to the question. What's in store for me? All these EAG points, but above all, it's the confidence that we have in Christ, the one who gave us the talent, skills, and ability to be used by Him to serve others. May they be your students, your colleagues, clients, and customers in other related fields, your family. Let me end with this text I posted in my story twice. I believe weeks or months interval, because it's a great reminder to me and to those around me. We can say, I'm confident. You can read it at your own pace. We can say, I'm confident, not because our credentials are admirable or our passion is unshakable, because it is. Just an aside again, or an insertion. I was asked, maybe not many times, but a few times by my students, ma'am, have you experienced to lose your passion in terms of teaching? And I will not be hypocrite to say no. I've experienced that, right? To lose my passion. But then once in a while, and God is really there. God is really present every time. You will lose that passion. You will doubt yourself. You will feel incompetent. I've had those feelings. But God will remind you, or will remind me through my students, random messages to me. And I will start, again, redeeming my passion towards teaching. And now teaching is really my passion, I can say. And my classes are my safe spaces. My students are my breather. I hope your students in the future or now, if you're already teaching on the side, right? I hope that your students are also your safe space. Okay, to continue. Or our passion is unshakable, but because our Creator is faithful. Again, we can say, I'm confident, or we're confident, not because our credentials are admirable or our passion is unshakable, but because our Creator is faithful. He started all this work in us, and He's faithful to complete it. And if you can say you're confident, teachers, it means you have faith, because faith is confidence. It is assurance. But what do we have faith in? And why do we have assurance? Because the authority of our faith rested in the one who made the promise. And we are now tapping into His faithfulness. Let them sink in. As college students, most of the time, you feel that the very promise of God does not make sense to you now. And the truth is, you're blessed for it not to make sense now. Because if it does, will you still try? Will you still make a bold move? Will you still do your best? Will you still pursue this program? Will you still work honorably for yourself and for your family? Will you still have the highest pursuit in life? Maybe you won't. And maybe you feel like the world around you is burning down in chaos. Maybe to some, it's breaking down every night, but you have the choice. Again, you have the choice to decide. You have the choice to grab onto God's power and trust in His faithfulness. Please know, teachers, English teachers, that you can have confidence because God is faithful and He is the same yesterday, today, and forever. And that is true. That is the truth. Okay, take a moment to pause, not just now. Maybe you can do it now, but if you'd like to do it some other time or tonight, always take a moment to pause and consider God's faithfulness. And seriously do it. Because you know what? Out of nowhere, the Holy Spirit will tell you, or maybe not will tell you directly, but you will just smile randomly because you feel colleague and you feel excited about what God has in store for you. Even if you don't see it yet, you don't know it yet, right? Then thank Him for all the ways and the times that He has been kind, that He has been generous, that He has been faithful to you. I bet there are many moments, right? Because from that stance of gratitude, right, that stance of having a grateful heart, you can have conviction in your heart that you will put your trust in God, even if you cannot see a way to the fulfillment of promise, because you're so consumed by the presence of the promise keeper. That's a striking thing, right? Sometimes, or most of the time, we focus more on the promises. God, you promised me this and that. Where are these things? Where are these people? Why not look at the promise keeper? Focus on the promise keeper and the ultimate provider, whatever you need, tangible, the intangible. I hope the intangible ones and the internal and the eternal ones. And decide today that you will live with confidence and not fear, and you will step out in faith. I know this is scary, stepping out in faith. Mhm. But really, we will step out in faith, maybe again and again and again. It is stepping out into the unknown, right? You're not decided yet. Mom, I don't know if I'll pursue this program or not. Mom, next semester we might have face to face. We might go back to face to face. I fear about my finances. I fear about, right, looking for the best dorm for me. I fear about all these things. Look at the promise keeper. Step out in faith. Step out into the unknown. Be expectant, my fellow educators. Okay. That's it. Thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah, this is my life verse, Romans 11:36. To God be all the glory. Thank you again for your time, for your patience also. Thank you for this opportunity to share. Remember Him when I'm gone. God bless you all. Thank you. Thank you, Elite. Thank you, participants.